Good day, folks. Welcome to MD Wildman channel. On today's video, I want to talk about how to improve snares. So I got in a debate at the end of last season with a buddy of mine. He's actually my cousin, works for the Department of Natural Resources here in New Brunswick. And we were talking about snaring and talking about, catching animals, dispatching quickly and all of those things. And at the end of the debate, or discussion, I guess, that we had, he kind of challenged me to do a little research and to figure out, ways that I could improve my snaring. Not mine specifically, but as some of you know, if you look back to the channel, I have, promoted and I have showed, several times different videos on how to build a basic, simple farm snare, which is this. This is typically what I use for fox and coyote, and I've done videos on how to make them. I've done videos on how to dye them. I've done videos on how to set them and tangle them and all that stuff, and that's all really great. But his issue is that this snare isn't as effective as it could be in dispatching foxes, coyotes, bobcats, all of those types of things. And he claims that when you don't dispatch quickly, then you risk losing an animal. So I did a little research, and I have come up today. I got to admit that he's not wrong when it comes to ways to improve snares. So I'm going to show you today 3 ways that we can improve a simple, basic, one of my basic farm snares, I call them. 3 ways to improve to dispatch faster. And I'll explain to you why you would want to do that on all of those things just here in a minute. Listen, if you haven't yet subscribed to the MB Wildman channel, we sure would appreciate it. It doesn't cost anything. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can turn on that bell so that you get notified when we upload new videos, so you wouldn't want to miss any videos. And as always, if you got questions, comments, concerns, I'd love to hear from you. Put them in the comments down below. Let me know what snaring is like in your area and what you're allowed to do or not do. It always intrigues me and amazes me. The people that comment that, hey, we can do this in my area, but not this in my area, and all of those types of things. It's funny, I did a video last week on banana buck jam, and I was saying that I was too close to a house to shoot. And I was like a couple hundred yards or something like that. And a comment from one of the viewers was, you can't shoot within 200 yards of we have to be 400 meters in New Brunswick, right, away from all kinds of stuff. And anyway, this guy was just amazed that 400 meters was the distance from a house because, he can shoot off his back porch where he is, right? So anyway, lots of different rules and laws and all those things. But anyway, we sure would appreciate it if you'd subscribe and follow along. So why would we want to improve our snares? Why would we want to improve the dispatch rate? Well, I can tell you that right now, the fur industry, the fur market, as I know it, sucks. It's absolutely in the toilet. The anti-fur people are everywhere, and companies are so afraid of, and that's just again, this is MB Wildman's 2 cents here, right? So companies are afraid to ruffle anybody's feathers, so if there's the least little bit of controversy, then they're doing away with it. You look at Canada Goose, right? Canada Goose is getting rid of all wild fur for their coats, which is a crock. It's the best fur to keep warm, but that's just, again, my opinion. So the fur market's in the tank, and those furs that are still worth something seem to be right now trending toward the long-haired pelts, right? So coyotes, foxes are not really in great demand right now, but coyotes are, and bobcats, some of those things are still holding some value. So when we target those using snares, we want to dispatch them as quickly as possible, because when they spend longer time in the snare, so the longer that they're in the snare, the better the chance that they either chew out or they twist that snare off or they break it off or something goes wrong with the locking mechanism or the way that you built the snare, or any of those things can happen. So the length of time that they spend in the snare alive, if we can shorten that time, then we will increase our catch rate. That's the sort of the discussion that I had with my cousin. And when I did some research into that, and after losing 2 animals this season in snaring setups with my typical snare that I use, I thought, you know what, he might be right. And my brain sort of goes, I'm a money guy, sadly sometimes I'm a money guy. And my thought process was, I averaged about $65 Canadian for the coyotes that I sold. And I'm thinking, if both of those catches, which I'm pretty sure they were both coyotes, almost 100% sure, that both of them were coyote catches, that actually one just completely broke the snare, and the other one twisted it enough that it got tangled up, but didn't get tangled. It didn't tangle the snare to kill the coyote. It tangled it, and then it twisted the snare, and it eventually broke it off. So my brain's going 65 times 2. Yikes, right? So if I could have done something to improve my snaring, then perhaps I would have been able to keep those coyotes and gained another $100, right? 120 or whatever it is. So anyway, here we go. 3 ways to improve my snares. This is what I've discovered. As opposed to making this, and there's nothing wrong with this, don't get me wrong. A lot of guys use this, super easy, cheap, right? There are 3 ways that I can improve this. The first way that I can improve it is by using a non-relaxing lock. So the lock that I use on these snares is like this, and I call them a micro lock. They're sometimes called different things, but so I call these a micro lock. Okay, this is what I typically use on all of my snares. I use them on my drowning rigs for beaver. I use them, for all kinds of different things. I use them on my drowning rigs for raccoons when I use my dog proofs as drowners. But anyway, this lock is actually what's called it's a relaxing lock. So as it tightens, or when it tightens, right? So as it tightens up, it tightens all the way down. As it comes tight, as soon as I stop pulling on this end, the lock just backs up just a tiniest little bit, right? So I pull it down, pull it down, pull it down. It's tight, 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 tight. And then when I let it go, it just a little bit. Now it's not enough that anything's going to escape or it's not going to back up, but it doesn't keep constant pressure against the wires. So it does back off a little bit. By changing this lock to a non-relaxing lock, and there are several different kinds. This is the one that I'm going to use. This is a new cam lock, right? These are the new ones that I'm going to use this season. They've got little teeth in here, and like this. So those of you that snare, you know what this is, right? So anyway, they've got little teeth, so that when you pull these ones tight, those teeth grip the wire, so that the harder you pull on that, if it moves it just the least little bit, it stays there. Even if they stop pulling, the wire doesn't relax at all. This lock does not relax, okay? So this is a non-relaxing lock, and that will improve that snare. It'll make it just that much more deadly. Please keep in mind that in New Brunswick, we are not setting snares as restraining sets, okay? So these are kill sets for us. We want the snare to kill the animal, okay? I know in some places that's not allowed. They have to set them as restraining sets and all that stuff. Not in New Brunswick, okay? These are kill sets. The other way that we can improve our snare is that I have never really included anything except a loop here to extend this, either to make a tangle cable or to actually affix this to something solid, right? So if you're gonna catch a fox or something that doesn't struggle too much, you can put this right on a fence post or whatever, and then boom, you got them. But we can improve it by using a swivel. Now, we can put a swivel on the end of a snare, so basically this would, before I make my loop, right, I would run my swivel here. Okay, so my snare would end up looking like, instead of the loop, it would have this part, would replace the loop here, okay? So I'd run my wire and then I would affix it, so it would end up looking like this, okay? Okay, I can't, this is a little hard, but anyway. It would have this swivel on the end of the snare as such. Okay, what this would do is now I can wire this part off to a tangle, or I can wire it off to something solid, and if the coyote or fox spins and twists around in the snare, as opposed to it twisting and spinning the wire, possibly opening it up and making it easier for them to break, it spins around within the swivel. And much like a leg hold trap or a foot hold trap, or any type of restraining trap for that matter, they're all equipped with swivels so that as they twist, it simply just turns and doesn't kink up, right? So that's another way that I can improve my snares, or that you can improve yours, I guess, too, is to make sure that they are equipped with an appropriate swivel. This one seems a little big for the size of snare that I'm using, but there are several different sizes and kinds that you can buy. So a non-relaxing lock and a swivel will certainly increase your catch rate and increase the quality and effectiveness of your snare. The other thing is a kill spring. Now, the kill spring debate will go on and on and on forever between trappers, and as far as I can tell, right? It's like asking a hunter what caliber is best. It's ridiculous. I'm a big fan of kill springs, and I use them in a lot of different situations. Historically, there are a couple different, or not historically, but typically there are a couple different kinds, especially in New Brunswick, that are available. Now, I get most of my trapping supplies, if you haven't yet figured it out or heard yet, from Long Creek Trapping Supplies, right? So my guy, Steven, hooked me up, and I get a lot of my stuff from him, and I appreciate his support for the channel and all that. So just a little shout out to Long Creek Trapping Supplies. If you're in New Brunswick and you're looking for some stuff, he's the guy. Kill springs come in a couple different sizes and shapes. This is one. Okay, so this is a 50-pound kill spring, and they look like this, and this is a 100-pound kill spring. So what they typically do, if you add a kill spring to your snare, they would go between this bend right here and your lock. And so they would sit right here like such, okay? Can't really see it. Okay, so it would sit like that, okay? It would be something that when the animal, so it would sit, can't really show it, but anyway, it would sit between the lock and this furrow right here, so that when the animal pulls on the snare, and the lock tightens up, this would compress. So this will squish this way. The harder that he pulls on the snare and the lock, the smaller this gets. So it compresses like this, and then there's a constant outward pressure. What that does is it keeps constant pressure on the lock on the neck. So the animal goes through, gets it caught on the neck, pulls it tight, struggles around, pulls it tight. The tighter it pulls it, this spring, or this spring, and this one works the exact same way, except for instead of pushing it this way, it goes like this, and it pinches this way. I can't even do it a little bit, I guess. It pinches down like that, like a Conibear spring. These ones I like a lot better, simply because there's no chance of them messing up. The little skinny ones like this, they are smaller, they can rust, and they can get bent around this way and makes them ineffective. Okay, these ones here are really good because they just squish up like this, and then there's constant pressure. By maintaining constant pressure on that lock on their neck, the animal, now there's research on it. I couldn't find the actual details for New Brunswick, but the animal actually expires a lot faster when there's that constant. I mean, this is a 100-pound kill spring, so if this was shut all the way, if the coyote gave a big lunge and pulled this shut, and then that it stopped struggling, the pressure of that last lunge or last pull is still against their neck. It's still against there, so they're going to choke out a lot faster. For those of you that are super sensitive, you shouldn't be watching this video anyway, but about killing animals and all that, right? But for those of you that are trappers out there and want to improve your snaring, I guarantee that a kill spring will improve your snaring. So why the big debate, right? Why is it that, if I've got 3 ways to improve my snares so that I can get better catches, or so that I get cleaner catches, or so that I get, one less pullout a year, is $65 in my pocket, okay? Why the debate? The debate is cost. If you look at making the simple snare that I show you how to make for 50 cents or 75 cents or whatever it is, and then you want to add a kill spring, then you want to add a swivel, and then you want to add a different kind of lock that's non-relaxing, you've just doubled the cost of my snare, maybe more than that. Right? So if you're only about money, if you're only about the cost of snares, adding all of these things to it increases the cost up front. And that's not cool with you. And that's the general debate. Then the other side of the coin is, okay, but if I add all those things and I pay the money up front and I get 1 extra catch a season, I've paid for all of that equipment for every single snare. Even the ones that I didn't use and I can reuse again next year, I've paid for all that equipment with 1 extra catch, right? So in my mind, it only makes sense. The 2 coyotes that I lost last year, would I have kept them with a kill spring and a swivel? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But if I could have, I would have paid for all the gear that I'm going to use for making snares this year. So anyway, listen, I hope this is something you can use out in your line. Feel free to give me your opinion, please. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you do. And go ahead and leave that in the comment section down below. So anyway, until next time, happy hunting from the MB Wildman channel.